This is a reminder to everybody that I am required to record these meetings, and so I've been told to record them to YouTube as well, so just for your information.
So we live on YouTube, or how does that work?
Yeah, so that's what we do. We do it live on YouTube, and then that way it's easier for the public to access them. So that's the way we're doing them now.
How do you handle executive session? Not that we go into executive session here.
So yeah, the Board of Selectmen, they basically just stop the recording and kick everybody out of the meeting, do the executive session, and then just close the meeting after that.
You don't know how to stop the recording, right, Graham?
Yeah, we had an issue. We couldn't figure out how to stop.
For your library building committee meeting?
Yes.
Yeah. Who's running your meeting?
Kristen Panzo.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, you can do it. You can stop the recording. She might not know how to do it.
Yeah, I think it's a technical thing. Yeah, that's what we figured. But that's what you do.
Yeah, so there's actually two recordings. One, it just records it to the cloud, and then this other one broadcasts live to YouTube, and you can stop both.
Yeah, she wasn't sure if we had to go to a different, Zoom meeting.
No, you just have to shut all the recording down, and then kick out the people that shouldn't be in the executive session, and just kind of keep an eye on it to not let anybody else in. But typically, people aren't trying to log in after that.
Yeah.
But Lauren really knows how to do those very well. So
yeah, we don't get the public participation we get here by comparison.
Right.
So I've got a 7:02, so we might as well get started. There's a number of people on board. Good evening. I'd like to call to order the March 10th meeting of the Coastal Resiliency Commission. First, want to approve the minutes from the prior February meeting. Hopefully you all have had a chance to take a look at it. Are there any changes that need to be made that you want to note? Anyone? If not, yes, Walter.
Yeah, I just sent the note over to Marlene. We needed a V in front of an E. We'll just leave it that way.
What is it? What?
There's a reference to the two coastal zones, AE and VE, and that the V that goes in front of the E wasn't in the minutes, so it should be AE and VE.
V like Victor, E like Ed.
Yeah, the AE is already there. It just it says AE and then it says NE zone, and it should be AE and VE.
V like Victor, E.
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's not a minor thing. I just wanted to prove that I read the minutes.
All right, so Walter gets a gold star. Anyone else?
You don't have to put that part in the minutes, please, for this meeting, please. In fact, you gotta put it in.
All right. Any other changes that anyone wants to note? If not, I'd make a motion to approve pending the change that Walter identified. Second, anyone?
Sure.
Yes.
Thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Raise your hand, say aye, whatever. Anyone, all those opposed? Okay, thank you very much. Okay, first thing. So we had a good meeting with the Board of Selectmen, and they agreed to go forward, and so we have a public hearing this Monday, and we want to talk about what we're going to be the 22nd. Sorry, thank you. The 22nd, and we wanted to go over what we'll be presenting that night. The first thing I wanted to make sure of so Walter and Woody and I and Dave was there also as part of his job. He was there throughout the meeting. We presented, but for the public hearing, I want to be sure there's a technical person available and in attendance and prepared to answer any questions that may come up. Where we didn't expect, nor did we bring along a technical expert with us for the Board of Selectmen, but for the public, I'm thinking that we need to cover all our bases. So Graham, if you could it could be either you or anyone that you choose from the technical group, but somebody coming prepared to be able to step in and answer some questions if we get some sort of technical issue, get on any technical subject.
What time does the meeting start? I have another building committee meeting that time. What time is the meeting?
The meeting's
Right.
actually at 6 o'clock. It's scheduled for 6 that night.
Oh. Boy, I have a problem too.
Is that first on the agenda or?
So there was a public hearing already scheduled for community development block grant at that time. So they just piggybacked on top of that pre-scheduled public hearing. And so as of now, it's scheduled for 6, and it'll probably be pretty close to that. I think the other item will be very quick. I will say I had a conversation with Peggy today, and she was thinking that the hour that they've allotted for this is not going to be sufficient. And so she was going to reach out to the board to see whether or not they'd rather reschedule the public hearing or actually push their Board of Selectmen meeting to the next morning. She was leaning towards pushing the Board of Selectmen meeting.
Wow.
So I haven't heard anything being final on that yet.
Yeah, so-
As of now, and the most likely outcome, I think we're on for 6 p.m.
And David, so for those of us who are not so close to the procedures, the 6 o'clock is the public hearing with regard to the floodplain ordinance. Is that the way it is?
Correct, yeah, it's just, just a public hearing, meaning that the selectmen don't anticipate taking final action that night, so they're just.
And then just by process, it happens to be the Board of Selectmen will be having their regular meeting at 7 o'clock. Is that the plan?
Yes, that was their plan, but that plan may change. So
Yeah, it's hard to say how much we're going to get, attention this is going to get.
Well, there's people talking about it.
I bet it was, everybody
Yeah.
read the article in the source?
There was a good sized article in the source.
Oh, and I usually read the source. Was this last week's source?
Yep.
I missed it. Well, that'll do it.
I'm not a Facebook guy, but there's some chatter on Facebook, and I've had people reach out to me about it. So there is some attention being paid to it for sure, which is a good thing. I think we want people, hopefully, what we don't want is emotional people necessarily. We want people that understand what the proposal is.
No, that's fine. I should get this source article out. We get the source, so I'm sure I can get it online. Was there, as long as you got us this far, Dave, or Woody, or Hank, was there any, from the article, was there a particular thing that stood out that caught people's attention? Anything?
I think the title of the article was what I thought. It just said, tighter restrictions coming on floodplain ordinance or something to that effect, which caught my eye more than the article. I thought the article was fairly accurate.
Yeah, I thought the article was pretty straightforward.
Yeah,
So,
it was just the headline.
I worked with media people for a long time, and the key way to get attention was to show some kind of conflict. And that's how you do it. It was the article in the Wall Street Journal by a doctor who was saying we'd get out of COVID faster, and the headline was CDC does not level with America. That's a nice headline. CDC is lying to America. So the good thing is we don't have a headline that says the CRC is not leveling with the town. We do not have that headline.
Always you're a glass half full guy. Good for you.
Yeah. But the tighter restrictions, Woody, that's how no matter what the writer writes, it's the person at the media, the source, who says we got to have a headline that catches people's attention, and that's it right there. So that's good. But did we have any specific comments, Dave, about any part of it?
Well, yeah, I do. I wanted to just give a few introductory comments and then let you guys take it from there. So the feedback I'm getting is people have a concern about the two things that we knew would be of discussion, which would be the additional foot above the requirement in the V and coastal AE zone, and then how the look back period is implemented. So those are the two items of concern. I did have a meeting today with Peggy and then Johnny Nako and Vinny, and they, kind of reiterated their comments, I should say, about the floodplain ordinance to her. And so what they're going to do is they're going to just attend our public hearing as observers, and then they're going to submit written comment to the Board of Selectmen after that. And basically, I think their main concern still seems to be how the look back period is implemented. So it's really going to be the Board of Selectmen. I'm kind of weighing in. So for our public hearing, I think really what we need to focus on is just educating the public on what this all is. And I think the main thing that in my mind that we need to do in the beginning is, just answer the question right away is, why are we doing this? I think, for me, some of the thoughts that I have is why we're doing this is we're doing this to try to, basically protect people's property. I mean, really. So we're trying to suggest regulations that are going to ensure that the investments people are making in their homes along the shoreline are, sustainable into the future. And I think then we maybe piggyback a little bit on what some of the recommendations that Circa has made. But I think we really need to nail home. It's not like we're doing this just willy-nilly, or that we're doing this because we want to make it harder for people to develop on the shoreline. Or I think we really need to convey that we think this is the best thing, not only for the entire community, but even for the individual property owners in these areas. Because I just think that's going to be important to set the tone in terms of the conversation. I do think it has a potential to be a little bit, I don't want to say hostile, but contentious.
Yeah, and do you think that Johnny or the town engineer could stimulate a public comment just by people they talk to?
Certainly, yes.
Yeah, that's what I expect would happen. I talked to the communications folks. We have, we've moved Marilyn, Shaw, and Greg just about how we communicate, what else we could do in terms of making, 8 to 10 slides a little more interesting to people, because when you go to public, this is going to be a Zoom or virtual meeting. We have all this stuff in the slides that we shared before. There's like 10 points to make. It's all about the look back and the BFE. But I think it's important, and I talked to them about this, is we need to remember what our message is. Resiliency to flood risk is through 3 things: accommodation. It's first is adaptation. So the town we really need to say, this is what this commission's looking at and what the state is looking at, adapting to flood risk. And you do that through accommodation, protection, and retreat. And accommodation is one way to do it. And it's just what you were saying, Dave. It protects houses that are already there. It's an accommodation. And we've got our little graphic that shows, here's what you do. The tide's coming up and the buildings are going up. We want to make it fairly simple. We're accommodating flood risk. And we should all know that anyway, but we should start because the town doesn't know much about, the public doesn't know much about what this commission does, because we haven't had much chance to do anything through COVID. But those messages, oh yeah, this is adaptation. And that one of the first things is accommodation, and that's raising the level of buildings to reduce flood risk.
So can I ask a question? How many right now? Well, first of all, it's a format question. So they call they start the meeting, the Board of Selectmen starts the meeting. They say, okay, up next is the Coastal Resiliency Commission. And then, Dave, do we give a present?
Duck and cover.
Then they jump under their desks.
Yes.
And then we're left standing there.
Yes.
Just kidding. But the point is, okay, so it's our turn. What so this is an opportunity to give a presentation?
This is an opportunity to give a presentation, in my mind, to the public.
Yes, right.
So, and I think, to me, the public that we should be directing it to are those people who feel that they may be negatively impacted by the recommendation. And we should be talking to, in my, this is just, my thinking, and that we should be talking to those people and convincing them that what we're doing is really the best thing for them, and the best thing for the town. So I do think we need to start with some basics, what is it and why is it, as if they've never heard it before. And then
I agree. I'm sorry to interrupt, but
no, go for it.
My comments were related as far as the presentation goes. Number one, would we have a chance to get a presentation? It wouldn't just be questions and answers from the beginning. And number two is that presentation needs to be start at a baseline that's very, broad, if that may be the wrong word, but basic is probably a better word. Like, what's the basic thing we're doing? It's probably already been said. What's the basic thing we're doing? Why are we doing this? What have we decided to present as recommendations? Why have we done that? What's the advantage of doing that? How will we benefit? So I think we need to assume that we're dealing with a blank slate here. Even though people may be coming in informed, there will be people that are not informed. So we need to cover those people also, and then deal with whomever has questions or issues later on. But the other side of it was how many, this is for the communication guys, how many slides or things, slides, I'll just leave it at that, do you think is the right number? When Walter mentioned 10, and my reaction is that's probably too many. But
so you and I are going to have to get ourselves straight on this one. 10 is nothing. 10's about 5 minutes. It's not the number of slides. It's how if you're making the presentation, how you control it. So you can get the first 2 slides done in 5 minutes. This is accommodation. This is what we do. So, but what's really important is the headlines, and that really is what Woody has stated over and over, and Dave is stating now, is we already have a floodplain ordinance in this town. We've had it for years. This is just a change, and it's bringing us in line with most every other town that's already done this. We're just catching up, I think. And so, again, we have to get comfortable with the words that go with it. There won't be that many words on the slides, but if you think about slides, you're looking at, a couple minutes on each one, you're done in 20 minutes.
Can I interrupt for a sec?
Absolutely.
Thank you. Dave, from what little feedback I'm getting and always have gotten about this topic from neighbors that have asked me over the last couple of years, what's happening and why. I think the pushback on the BFE +2 versus 1 affects so few people, and most of those people are right around us here. I don't think that's going to be the center of it at all. It's going to be all the folks that are knowledgeable about how our 1-year look back currently works, and why that will be a serious issue to the way they're doing things now, including several homes that are under construction, partial construction, renovation. I think we're going to get way more pushback on that, and there's no real slide for that.
That's a good point. I think we'll have to, so you don't want to draft them here, is come up with some points that you want in some form of a slide, if you want it in a slide. And I'll run it past the communications guys, and then back through, Dave, you'll have to decide how many folks go back and look at this, but I'm going to see if I can share the screen of the one we had. I don't know whether I can do this or not. I'm going to see if I can
respond to just one comment that Woody had. I do think there's a little bit of an answer to that, Woody, and I think the answer is that there is a big risk associated with not bringing your home into FEMA compliance as a result of sea level rise, as a result of increased frequency of coastal storms. And that risk is not just to you as an individual property owner, but it's to adjacent property owners due to any storm
I
damage,
agree.
but it's also due to the town, who really needs to preserve, help preserve the tax base in this area. So an individual homeowner's decision to try to get around elevating their home when required has ramifications for everybody, right? And
I
so-
agree, but what I think what disturbs me the most is you've got the two officials that whose charge it is to implement the floodplain ordinance in this town against it. And I think the problem starts with them, because that just exacerbates the situation. Let's phase it in one day every 3 years, and it'll take 75 years to get phased in. And, we'll have our 5-year look back long after all of us are gone. I mean, the answer is we compromised a great deal by going to a 3-year. Going to a 1 year and then one day, a day here and there, taking years to get up to 5 years, means that we're not being resilient. We're not building resilient structures. We're allowing the structures that will be damaged, as you just said, to continue. But it's a really tough slide, Walter. So
Oh, yeah.
that's the tough part. But I think that's what we should concentrate on, because I don't think anybody really cares one way or the other about 1 foot or 2 feet.
Yeah,
Well,
I
we should be prepared for whatever subjects come up, and you may absolutely be right that's going to be the thorn that everybody is, feels like is getting stuck with, but we should have obviously an answer for that also, and similar to what you just described, Woody.
Yeah, so what I look for the slides being is just like a kid's storybook. You have to keep an audience, if they're on Zoom like this, focused a little bit other than on faces. So you've got this picture that just shows the one we had. And David, I was looking to share it now. It's a little graphic that Greg McCall that just shows what sea level rise does and how you accommodate by raising the level of the building. It's just a picture. That's all that's on the slide. And a few more pictures, and people are going to just talk regardless of what the slides are there, but a few slides just to remind people, oh yeah, this is accommodation for raising the level of buildings. And the point that Woody's making is you're right, because I think we have another picture we can show that this BFE +2 is just along the shoreline. It's just those 150 houses. The picture, what you're saying is the issue is going to be the 5-year, right?
That's my opinion. Yes, quite.
Yeah, and I think the hard part of this, and is we've described this. This came up when the Board of Selectmen talked to us. Why didn't we go? They were just playing a little bit devil's advocate. Why didn't we go shorter? Why not go 10 or longer? Why not go 10? And you have a good answer to that, but we should probably have that worked out right in the middle of the presentation. We landed on 5 because, and you've answered that a number of times, and you should just be prepared, I think, to cover that point.
I think one of the things that we could do. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry. One of the things I think everybody's touched on a little bit, but I think should happen early in the presentation is the segmentation aspect of this. That it really, this is the law. We're required to do this, and it affects 150 homes. And that'll eliminate half the crowd right there. All right. You could even ask the question, how many people in this room are within 25 feet of the shoreline, or whatever you want to ask. And that'll even reduce that size of the group even more. So you're talking about the 3-year look back. I mean, you really could add some sort of data here. I mean, it could be extrapolated data, but you may look at those 150 homes and have a rough estimate that of those 150 homes, maybe 25 of them or 30 have had any work done in the last 3 years.
Wayne, it's not the 150, it's everybody.
No, I realize that. But the 3-year look back doesn't matter if they haven't had any work done. You see what I'm saying? So the people that are going to be worried that it's going to, the idea is to get it out of their worry zone. Does it affect me? So does the 3-year look back affect me? And I think the answer for most of them, the majority, is no, it doesn't affect them.
Those people won't even attend. What I'm getting is that the people who are going to attend are people who have been planning on doing improvements to their homes
Okay.
every year.
So
Those
those
are people who will attend. It isn't the people who haven't bothered to do
to
anything.
do anything. So the people
They're
that are,
not going to even bother to come because it doesn't really affect them.
so the people that are planning on doing the
But we're going
construction,
to get the belligerent, and I know
Yeah.
we're being recorded, but that's the truth. We're going to get the belligerent folks who really like the 1 year look back. They'd like no look back. That would
But-
be better.
but
Do what you
again,
want when you want to, but they can live with the 1 year look back.
but my point is the 1 versus 3 probably only affects about 20 homes out of that 150. Honestly,
I
It's
wouldn't
probably
use the
like-
150. The 150 is not relevant. It's probably affects 20 homes
total.
in the special flood hazard
Well,
area.
So there you go. So you limit it down.
As opposed to 20 within the 150, because it probably doesn't affect that.
Yeah.
So
But
So you
it surely does, and it's probably more than 20 because I know of a half dozen. And I never drive down Neck Road. I never look. I never look in some of our other areas because I don't live there.
Yeah, right.
But the ones I know about is probably half a dozen that I know about. So
Well,
What
all I'm
do you-
trying to say is that of those 20, let's say there's 20 that have done some work. Of those 20, how many really are going to be doing some work in the next 2 or 3 years? And the number's probably
I
pretty
don't
low.
know 20, but of the half dozen that I know of,
Yeah, but
a
the
good
idea is to
number.
segment them down to a small minority so that you don't have the whole crowd.
I think that's what we're going to have. We're going to have a very, very contentious small minority.
Yep, yep.
So what do
Dave,
you,
do you disagree with anything I've said, or do you?
No, so I agree with what you said, that the look back period, I think, is going to be the primary concern. I do think there may be some people that just are not educated enough on how it works, that they'd be afraid, like, oh my God, if I need to replace my roof next year, am I going to have to raise my house? So there may be people that truly are not that savvy to how the floodplain ordinance works, and they'd just be concerned. So they might not have been planning projects, but are just, so I think we'll get some of those folks. And then I think
David,
honestly, we'll get some builders in the area that maybe think that this could either negatively impact their ability to get jobs, or, or
So
slow
Dave-
pace of construction for some reason.
so David, and you and Woody are all close, much closer to this than I am. What you have, you currently have a floodplain ordinance right now, and if you do a substantial improvement, more than 50% of the value, you got to comply with the current law, right?
Correct.
That's right. And
Yes.
so what this would say, even if we weren't raising any elevation, this says, if what you're planning to do this year in 2021, if you also count what you did in 20 and 19, if that goes over half, now you have to come into compliance, which could mean raising your building, right?
Right.
Regardless of where it is, whether it's in the +2 or the other one. That's what we're up against.
That's what I think.
That's the issue. And there are people who said, oh, I might be doing something, but I did things over the last 2 years. And this new one I know won't be 50% of the value. That's the problem. And that you think that, I think the builders would be more likely to think about this unless there's a guy who's ready to a person who's ready to put their shovel in the ground tomorrow. It's the builders who are going to raise the issue. Is that right?
I think there'll be some that do. Yeah, I think there will definitely be some.
Because they think about this. Yeah, okay.
Sure.
Yeah, okay.
This conversation just reminds us how we have to start at the beginning and take one step at a time as far as the presentation goes, so that we say we can't assume, do not assume knowledge. So start at the basics. Here's what exists today. Here's what we're recommending. Here's why. Here's the benefits. So we just need to lay the groundwork for here's the story, and the reality of the story, and here's why. And so the whole message is, here's what it is. Here's what we're recommending to improve. Here's why. And then we can go from there. As long as our presentation covers those kinds of things,
David,
we're in good shape.
David, I mean, I don't want to draft these slides here. Can I show
No,
those
I don't
slides?
either.
You
I
can,
could show you the slides. I
yeah,
get
you,
that,
you can share.
but I have to share my slide. My thing is telling me to share can I share my
You can.
screen?
Yes, you can share your
I don't know whether
screen.
it'll work.
Well,
I'll try.
it.
Yeah, push the button.
It says share screen.
Yep,
Will that
that's
work?
right.
All right, screen broadcast. Where is it? Start broadcast.
Right at the bottom, it should say share screen in green.
Yeah, I said share screen. It says I'm
You're
sharing.
sharing.
Yes. You
You
can't
are
see, what do
sharing.
you don't see anything, right?
Yeah, we see you are sharing screen.
Yeah, but not the
So
stuff.
what you, Walter, if you close that,
Yeah,
all right, you might
Let me
be
get
just
out of
stop sharing. Yeah, I don't know, you have a different look than,
yeah, off. I do that. All right.
I'm gonna stop your sharing, hold on.
I stopped it. Okay.
So if you pull up, so do you have a PowerPoint presentation?
Yeah.
So just open up the PowerPoint presentation in another window, so that's the thing you have open.
Yeah, I did.
Okay, now come back and try to hit the green button again, the share screen button, and then.
Yeah, I had the PowerPoint open and I went to back to where I can see you guys on Zoom and it's just share screen and it's giving me some junk. It's giving me photos, iCloud Drive, website URL, bookmark, whiteboard. I don't want any of
Yeah,
that.
find your current screen, usually on the upper left.
Yeah, it just says screen.
I'll tell you what, if you email it to me, if you can do that, I can pull it up.
Yeah, I'll do it and then you can show it. All right. All right. You guys keep chatting.
While we're chatting, I think, especially since we're recording and other people are viewing this, we should go back to the fact that floodplain ordinances of many types, inconvenience citizens. There's no getting around that. We can't say that a 3-year look back won't inconvenience those people who are planning to do work on their homes every year in compliance with the current floodplain ordinance. It'll be a pain in the neck. It is an issue. And I think we've discussed this. We've recognized this in the past. This is going to inconvenience people. This is going to cause people some issues and problems. And not doing it isn't a reasonable way around it. The way around it is to make your homes more resilient because that's what we are here to do. But we shouldn't kid anybody. It's sort of like a noise ordinance. If you like playing music all night long because you're just into that, and we put in a noise ordinance, you're not going to be able to do that anymore. That's an inconvenience. That pisses you off. This is going to piss people off. It happens to be the absolutely positively right thing to do. And I agree with FEMA that they wish it could be an infinite look back. And then all these homes would be brought into compliance. They'd be more resilient. They would cost FEMA less in its flood insurance program than we're spending now every time there's a major event. But it's not a very popular thing to do. So everybody compromises. 10 years, 5 years, 3 years, whatever. It is going to inconvenience people. And I just think we should be honest and upfront about it. It's going to be a pain in the neck to people who have been planning to work each year on their home and eventually have a very, very nice home that is sitting in the middle of the floodplain, which makes absolutely no sense to me at all. And not try to, there's nothing you can say to satisfy a person who's coming to this meeting, Walter, that knows the rules, that has asked me over the years how the rules work. They know the rules and they know they're screwed.
So
And
Woody,
the
I
answer is
just to respond to that, I don't think, I want to make it clear because like I said, we're being recorded. No one was suggesting to sugarcoat anything, right? No one was suggesting to pretend that it wasn't going to have any impact on people. What I had suggested earlier was that we need to provide a real reason why we're doing this.
But the real reason is the real reason. The real reason is we're doing this to prevent it.
You know, you got to take a step back. We're not doing it to prevent individual projects. We're
doing this
so
to
the community is more resilient, right?
right.
And that's the
Right.
reason we're doing it. So I think that's where we need to focus.
He meant prevent loss.
We can't get so caught up in these individual property owners that may, in our minds, not be doing the right thing now. Because,
No, I didn't say they weren't doing the right thing. I just said that when we extend the look back period, it's going to inconvenience people. But that's not relevant to what
I
we're
guess we
doing
just have
because
to be
of what
careful,
you
because
said.
when you, so
It's
if we
not
say that
relevant.
at a public meeting, well, we're sorry it's gonna inconvenience you. If I'm that person, I'm saying, no, it's not gonna inconvenience me. It's gonna cost me $200,000. You know, that's not an inconvenience. That's a real issue. And, you know, that's the talking point now. So we have to be careful how we say it's inconvenience. It's more than an inconvenience.
I think we ought to focus on the upside, and the upside in this case is it's for the greater good. It's the right thing to do. We have one today. We have a floodplain ordinance today. We're improving it.
Right.
And
I mean,
there'll be, and the reality is there'll be some that aren't happy about it. But the other reality is it's in the town's best interest, in overall property owners' best interest. And it's what we ought to be doing.
right. And Hank, I think,
I totally agree. That's what I think we should concentrate on rather than trying to sugarcoat it or trying to, which I know you don't like that word, Dave, or show slides as to why we're doing it.
But Dave, I think you made the right point, and so did Hank. This is for the coastal community's benefit. There are going to be people who will be more impacted than others, but definitely this is just as some property owner 5 years down the road will say, well, why did the town let me build here? Or why did the town let me do this? They're going to want to know why. And you're going to say, well, we had two property owners who objected, so we didn't do anything. So I think, you know, the coastal community is what we're looking to protect and help.
We're not getting ourselves.
I think, thank you, Joe. I think that's the right.
I really
approach.
like that. Yeah.
That's exactly
If
the
you
right
look at
approach.
this, every time somebody says slides, no one's going to stop this group from talking. So don't worry about the slides getting in the way. Either Hank or Woody will be fine. So the slides are just to give people, it's a form of communication. Some people hear words, other people have to see something to get where we're going at. And we can share it now, or I'll send it around later, a first draft of where we're going here. So this is just to keep us on track. It is not designed to be the argument for or against. Let's see if, now Dave's going to try and share this. Let's see if this will work. So go right back to the first slide. Yeah, that's the first slide. You can you go to slideshow?
yeah, can everybody read that? Because sometimes it messes it up.
Can you just go to slideshow if you can? It's right at the top.
I can read it. Yes.
Yep. Perfect.
All right. So this is like a 2-second thing. Why is there even a Coastal Resiliency Commission? Bang. You should be able to get rid of that in a minute. Sea level rise, this is the Hank McGuire addition at the bottom. Flood risk a concern for all. We're a coastal town. Bang. Next slide. Boom. Okay. All right. This is the graphic. What's coastal resiliency? This is what we're doing. We're protecting. We could be doing beach nourishment. We're accommodating. That's the floodplain ordinance, or we could retreat. We're not talking about any of the other two. We're talking about the one in the middle tonight, accommodation. See that? The building's going up because the tide's coming up. Next slide. And this is what it is, okay? To remind the public, to remind the selectmen, because they know less about this than we do, and I don't know that much. We've had this for a long time. Woody's put this story together. We've had it since 2010, amended in 2013. Bang, next slide. There's a deep model adopted in 2018. It's been adopted by almost every municipality. Bang. So this isn't long either, but there's a critical way you sell this.
So this slide in particular, where it says Connecticut Deep Model FPO, are you saying that's what Madison is doing, or what's the message here?
The message here was, and this is from Woody's work. It's this next part. It's been adopted by most towns. This is to say most towns have adopted the model. Next slide. That's all you're saying. We're not ahead, we're behind. This is the Madison proposal. Bang, substantial improvements here. Here's the game. deep model, 10-year, Madison, current 1 year, here's what we're proposing. You need this slide, otherwise people are just going to be yapping.
I think that slide is the best slide so far, Walter. I mean, that's
Well, the other one,
that's really what we're going to get a lot of questions
yeah,
on, I think.
And what I will often said to people is what I do for a living. You got to warm up a little. You got to say hello.
I'm not
All right.
saying to eliminate the others. I just think
Yeah.
we should develop this because this is what we're going to be questioned on.
This is the deal, and this is what we're talking about here. Most towns did a 5-year rule, you know. So you want people to think, not the source to think, or writes about this. Madison is not going off, or this CRC is not going off half-cocked in some unique direction. We're doing what everybody's doing. We're doing 5 years. And now we can talk about how to respond to that. You, Woody, and Dave and Hank, of how to respond to this question. Why is it such a hardship to go from 1 to 5? If I'm not thinking of building anything for a bunch of years, it's not particularly relevant. If I'm just doing a small, what you are looking at, people, if somebody's doing something small in 2021 and says, I have to go back and look and see what I did the prior 2 years, I guess it's that's the relevant piece. So yeah, this is the one we need more work on. But this is, it just, instead of having just talking, you have this on the screen, people can see this.
Oh, we definitely need something on the screen. I don't want to just be talking.
Yeah, so this, and so we need a little more on this piece, is why this is fair, not because, and I think one of the best arguments is and Woody, you brought this to us before, most towns have done this, and they've gone to the 5-year, not as long as the deep, and we have our special rule, which accommodates people today with, because you're not going to count anything before July 1.
So what are the next slides?
The next slides don't do much on this, but go through we'll hit the next one anyway.
Okay.
This was on the BFE, which is the +2. And then there's the picture, which is, those are the zones right along the coast. And then we have another slide on the BFE +2. And what I'm hearing today is not so important because we think that, so we could do a little less on this, but we've got that. And then one more. This is on BFE. So we've got 3 slides here on BFE +2, and then one more. Yeah, and we could cut some of that. We don't need all of that. I'm hearing from, we could probably get 2 slides on that.
Yeah, I don't think this one
Yeah,
is
I'm not-
useful. Right.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I've asked, and Woody already knows this anyway, but for the uninitiated, even my communications committee, they said, what does AE and BE stand for? And I said BE is for Victory Day, but that's not true. So yeah, you know, there are areas on a map, but that's all that is. And again, we could cut this back, Hank. This is what we had in there before when we thought the BFE +1 or 2 was a hot issue.
Yeah,
All
I
right?
think we ought to consolidate some of it, but
Yeah, I can do that. And then we really need to work on this, how to deal with this 5-year rule. And what was
well, I think the slide you had, I think what Woody's right. The slide you had is identifies that, look, we're here and we've been here and we are we haven't updated it. We're out of step with the town, with the other towns. We're out of step with the state, and we're updating. And we need to, for the town's benefit and for the zones that we're talking about's benefit, particularly relevant to the coast and that whole thing. So yeah, that's a good message.
All right, and then I think the variance thing we could bring up or not bring up. That was in the picture that we would have that done. But I think the selectmen have to know about that, and I think there was some blocking from our 2 friends who didn't like the variance idea. So even though it may not be brought up in person,
I don't think there's any way in the world that Peggy and other members of the Board of Selectmen would eliminate the variance thing. I think
yeah,
all
I know.
of them
Okay, that's
really
fine.
saw this as necessary. Don't you agree, Dave, on that part of it?
Yeah, I don't think that'll be.
And I don't think it'll be contentious.
I think if you're running the slide show and we're still within our time frame, you can click the slide up on the variance, or if a question comes up, you can click it up.
Sure.
If not, you won't do it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. Just in terms of developing a lot of background information, I don't think that's going to be where the contention is.
Nope.
Well, I'm in the minority here because I think the entire slideshow should be presented to the public. I don't think we're here to educate 5 people who are going to object to it, or 10 people. We're here to project ourselves to the public on what we've been doing and how we arrived at it. And I think by segmenting this slideshow into just a few panels for a specific people is the wrong way to go. But
I think we're all in agreement with that, Joe. I just felt there was that one slide that really didn't explain much that might not be necessary. I think all of these can be shown. There's no reason not to. I just think that amongst ourselves, we should discuss those that we think will be more contentious.
And also those that will be more informative, you know, that I agree with Joe. I don't want to give the impression that we're trying to soft touch anything or hide something or not bring it if it's an issue or if it's a question or it's something we plan to do, or you know, I don't want to hide anything. But I do want to say part of it is education for those that aren't as deep into it as some on the subject matters, but also, you know, what we're doing and why and benefits, that kind of thing. So I agree. We're not going to hold anything back here.
Let me, there's more to be done. I'm going to take an initial shot with the communications group to just fine tune this a bit more and then send it out. And I don't, Hank, I don't know how many people you want to work on sort of this presentation for the 22nd. I kind of envisioned you handling this for and maybe with Woody and Dave is kind of making the presentation. I'm there to help out with the legal question about variance if we get to it, but the other pieces, I think that you can handle that. What do you think about this, Hank, about who presents this?
Well, you know, I thought what we did for the Board of Selectmen meeting worked fairly well, as far as an introduction and then sort of here's the message, and then Woody providing the more of the policy changes and why and benefit statements, those kinds of things. But I mean, I was comfortable with that format. But if you think we should mix it up, we can talk about it. We don't need to decide today. But
no, that's fine. And I think if we got to the variance question, which is more of a law question, I'd be happy to weigh in on that. But as Woody points out, it's not a problem. I think it would be helpful, instead of arguing, is to think about some examples of how, if you're making an improvement in your house and it's pick a dollar number, you're not going to you're not going to have to comply because you're not at the 50% level in the value, but under the 1-year rule. And even if you look back, if you did smaller improvements in the last 2 or 3 years, they're not going to count either.
mm-hmm.
It's only for that person who's done a fairly substantial improvement in shouldn't use the word substantial, a significant improvement in 3 years ago, it's going to get caught if he wants to do another one.
Yep. So let me ask you, hey, Graham, is there some sort of technical issue or technical input that we should have in this presentation that we're maybe not addressing?
I just think it may be on more on the BFE type thing than the look back period. You know, there may be some questions like what if, you know, how it impacts people. I know Dave Clark was very, you know, cognizant of some of the issues with like ramps and stairs and things like that could affect people that extra foot.
Right.
But I think the technical start is, you know, the BFE is more the issue. The look back's just kind of more of a program thing.
Right. Okay.
I do agree. A case study would be a good example. Like if you said, you know, what the 50, so people understand is the 50% value, and you know, if you had like a case study, if you did this and you did this, you'd be below or over. Might be helpful.
Wow, is that hard? Oh, because the value of some of these homes is so low that you can't do a whole hell of a lot.
Give me an example, Woody, of a value that's low.
Oh, I don't want to get too specific.
I don't, but stay away from the shoreline first, from right at the
But I'm only familiar.
areas that are just in the BFE+1. How about those?
I'm not sure I understand, Walter. I'm sorry.
Well, so aren't there some of the areas that will have to, houses that are not elevated to BFE+1 today because they have not complied with FEMA because there's nothing, they're old houses, right?
Right.
And so if I want to make an improvement to a house that's been around for a long time, right? And I have to stay under that 50% level, right? And you're saying you can't, that you're always going to go over that?
Not always, but for example, there were a lot of cottages, non-winterized cottages that have a valuation of around 100,000. So 50% of that gives you 50,000 to work with.
Yeah,
Which
so
doesn't
they're going to have to comply. Even
So
under,
but what
even
they
under-
do, what they can do now, quite obviously, is to do that amount of work each year. Then you could ask the town to reevaluate your home. You can contest the value and you can say,
all right. I hear you. I guess I've been looking at real estate prices too much. I haven't seen $100,000 cottage in Madison anyplace.
I didn't say that that's what it would sell for. I said that's what it's on the books for.
Right, so $1 million house property and land, the house is only worth 100 grand, right? That's what you're saying. So, you know,
I think if you did a scan through everything, you'd come up with a bunch of them because I look at them all the time.
so that's the concern. Someone buys $1 million property, the house is worth 100 grand. He wants to put 50 grand into fixing up the kitchen, and now he's got to raise his house.
Well, he puts 49.9 in and he doesn't raise it, but that's all he's doing.
Right, so he's got a new, but he can't do his bathrooms. I mean, that's kind of the problem, right?
Yeah,
The
but
guy's
I
got
also
$1 million
think
house, but he can't
I
fix
don't I don't think it's a new I don't think it's a new purchase, because if you've just spent $1 million, you're probably not going to be satisfied with the condition of a $100,000 non-winterized dwelling. I think it's people who have owned it for a while and are going to be upgrading it and things like that. That's just more typical from what I've seen.
Hey, you know what? I'm looking at the clock and I'm looking at our agenda, so we should continue the discussion of what we want to present. We'll have to have a separate, offline meeting just to do a little homework on it. And because otherwise we'll continue. It's already 5 of 8. So we should, for expedience purposes, move on to the next topic, and we'll round everybody up again to talk about the mechanics and the Walter, when you have a second version of the slides after you've talked to the communications group, let us know
Yep,
when
I'll
you'd be
send-
ready when you'll be ready to review it again. We can have the similar discussion with
Right.
some updates.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, thank you very much for everybody for all the input, but I just don't want to keep everybody here all night. The next thing on the agenda is to review review the coastal resiliency plan update proposed from SLR International.
So this, I just bring it up right now, the original proposal called for this task force support for future public engagement. And we had talked, Walter and I had talked to Dave Murphy, as we said we would, and then I pulled Graham into a later meeting. And Dave Murphy suggested that if we wanted to focus any more on issues surrounding tidal wetlands, that we would have to drop this support for public engagement piece. And so let me stop sharing this and pull up something else real quick. So the revised scope just basically swaps out that support for future public engagement with this task number 4, characterized state of tidal wetlands relative to resiliency concerns. And so I think when we talked about it, we realized that maybe this first stab at coastal resilience plan update, we may be better suited more for, additional technical analysis, and we can focus later on the public engagement piece. And so I just wanted to, before we confirm with SLR that folks are okay with that general concept, that we're going to, again, kind of have this be more of a little bit more of an internally driven process for this, small update to the plan. And then we'll save any kind of public engagement component for when we move forward beyond this initial step. And I know if Graham or Walter, if you have anything to comment on, I think we were in agreement, it seemed to me, when we left that meeting with Dave Murphy, but I figured I'd circle back with the group.
Yeah, I think the thing he took out really, it wasn't like we wouldn't be doing public engagement, but they had kind of a little device, a map kind of thing, which was a kind of a nice to have, but we have, I think, a long way to go to get rolling on public engagement. So that's kind of why we thought, I was kind of in favor of going this way.
Yeah,
Could you do me a favor and just mention the exclusions that are in this agreement and what they mean?
What specifically are you talking about? Right here?
There's things that aren't covered. That's exclusions and limitations. Can you explain all that, what it doesn't cover?
I don't know if I can explain it much more than it's here. I mean, we have a limited budget. We're trying to operate with under $10,000. And so Dave Murphy just explained that, they're not going to be able to edit all the maps in the documents. There's some concepts in there, one is doing it the surf club, that they're not going to go back and revisit. They're not going to do, survey work for, defining the limits of the tidal wetlands. And they're really just going to be working with us as a committee and not holding a bunch of public meetings. If we want to hold public meetings, that would be kind of on our own initiative. And then, the document would just be an electronic version. If we wanted to produce any hard copies, it'd be above and beyond the $10,000 contract. That's basically.
Is everyone happy with that? I don't know. I haven't seen the original document, so.
So the original document is we have reviewed that, Joe, but it's on our town website, the 2016 document. And so if you wanted to take a closer look at that, these appendices D and E would be a little bit more, more apparent to you.
So this is the direction we've been talking about going. It sort of initially,
Yes.
Initially this was a much bigger endeavor, and now it's been focused and skinny down some.
Yes.
Is that right? Okay. So this is we're doing this on purpose.
Yes.
Good.
Yes.
Good. I just wanted to be sure
Yep.
that it's going in the direction we had intended.
Yeah, I think we had discussed and thought we'd benefit from
Right.
getting a little momentum, and
Yep.
so.
So this is good. This is good. We'll get something out of it without, I think we have other things that we want to move on to.
Right.
Okay, good. Any questions or any further discussion on the SLR stuff?
do we want to take a formal vote to accept it? Do we need to do that, Dave? Do you think? or-
Well, why don't we? I think that's a good idea, Graham. Why don't we just take a vote to move forward with it?
Anybody want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move we go forward with the proposal as we received from SLR dated, whatever the date is.
It's
23rd.
22nd, February 22nd.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion. Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Questions, discussion, thoughts? Okay. If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, the motion carries unanimously.
Who did the second?
Joe Mako.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thanks. Thanks for doing that. Graham, thanks for reminding us to do that. And then, oh yeah, let's talk about the governor's bill. Let's see, I'm reading regarding the establishment of flood prevention, climate resilience, and erosion control boards. Dave, I
Just a
think.
brief conversation. I'm hoping
Yeah.
if other people got a chance to at least review that governor's bill in brief. It seems to me that that could be a path forward for the Coastal Resiliency Commission, almost reconstituting ourselves into that type of board. Did anybody get a chance to kind of review that section of the bill to see? Okay, let me.
I have not.
I have a question. Do you have it in front of you? I have a question about line 81.
Okay, ask me the question. I don't have it memorized, but I'll give it.
Well, this is what it says. I didn't understand it.
He memorized 1 through 80, but he never got to 81.
Yeah. This is what it says. It says municipal stormwater authority created pursuant to section 22A.
So that's just so you're clear, that's a different thing. So
Okay,
there's
fine.
two different,
Because it had a limit on population. I'm like, well, what's that all about?
there's two different proposals in that bill. One is a stormwater authority and the other one is a flood erosion. So it used to be the Flood and Erosion Control Board, then they added this element of coastal resilience. So let's do this. Let's punt that conversation until folks have had a chance to review it.
Yeah.
And think about it a little bit.
And I'll just say it's worth reading. There's the fact sheet that you sent out as well that DEEP sent, and that's an easy way to get a handle on this. Some of the I talked to Marilyn. Charlotte had gone through this. She sent a note back to the group, and I just say they put flood and erosion and climate resilience together, and we were thinking of that anyway because we don't have anybody on Madison's board for flood and erosion, and we were talking about the variance would go to some board. It would be the coastal resiliency. So combining flood and erosion and resiliency together seems to make sense, but we'll have to talk about that. That's the subject, right, David?
Yeah, so you kind of the bill details and state statute details what the boards have authority over, and it's actually a little bit different. They actually have the ability to, acquire land for, wetland retreat.
Yeah.
There's a whole bunch of interesting things associated with it that I thought would be worthwhile. But it's a bit prescriptive in terms of, it would be a 7-member board with 3 alternates, and here's the type of power, but it would also, allow us to continue to do what we're doing.
Well, that's about what we've morphed into, isn't it?
It's so, yeah, it seems to me, yeah, we're kind of dwindling.
Yeah, I think we've really had an odd year, as everything in the town has, and this one in particular has been sort of in a quasi pause for the last year. So, yeah, what we don't know, David, I was going to ask you, and I won't take much of your time on this. What is a stormwater authority, and does Madison have one?
So we do not have one. I actually was confused about that, and I haven't gotten a chance to research it thoroughly, but I was talking to Joe McDougall the other day, and I said, is that, could those be one and the same? And he just very briefly explained to me that they're kind of two separate, for two separate purposes. So I haven't delved into the stormwater authority very closely yet.
Yeah, and I don't know whether I don't know unless somebody in our panel tonight knows what stormwater authority is. Let us speak up now.
So I guess my take on it is I think we should educate ourselves about this flood and erosion control change, and because ultimately if we think there'd be some benefit to the town to establishing that board or to reconstituting into that board, we're probably going to be the ones that need to explain it to the Board of Selectmen.
Yep.
So I think it should be on our radar screen.
So
David, a question. Do you know if this bill will become law?
Well, I don't know yet, but it seems to have some positive momentum behind it. We can find out from Christine Cohen and John Michael there. Christine Cohen is the chair of the environmental committee, so she has a really good handle on this particular bill.
Well, you mentioned Joe McDougall, who's the head of the Charter Revision Committee. So I'm just thinking in terms of ahead, if we're going to change our name, does it have to be incorporated into the charter?
Well, so that's one of the things I talked to Joe about is the idea of do all the appointed boards and commissions really need to be referenced in the charter, or should they just be enabled in the charter, and then the Board of Selectmen want to have a little bit more flexibility on what boards and commissions are necessary. And so that's something the Charter Review Committee is going to talk about.
Okay, thanks.
So
just to digress on the stormwater authority, that's basically something like New Haven is proposing, as a way to raise money to fund their storm infrastructure for nonprofits, i.e. Yale University. So I think that's kind of wouldn't apply to Madison or rural communities.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah,
So
the one-
David, when I read this, it looks like, at least the way it's titled, it looks like, okay, there are three different committees. Are you talking about combining those three or?
So that's all one.
Establishing them?
That's all
So-
one board. So the title of our agenda is one board that municipalities would be able to establish.
I see, okay,
Yeah, so it just has that overlapping functions, but it's all one board.
all right.
But
all right,
it wouldn't be, but it's not the stormwater authority. That's still separate in
No.
this
Right.
statute or whatever that is. It's flood and erosion and coastal resilience, right?
Yep. Yeah, so
And-
I think it'd be good for us to kind of just keep an eye on that. And
Yeah, and the thing that could be a hot item politically is it would allow the municipality to adopt a buyer's real estate conveyance fee. And that's where money could be generated to be used by the board, but that's the one that will be probably cause some friction at the state level to get it enacted. And then the question of whether that would be, whether the town would separately decide it wanted to adopt a buyer's real estate conveyance fee.
right. And so those funds would go into a coastal resiliency fund, which
Yeah.
we don't have currently, but the finance director and I are slated to give a presentation to the Board of Finance about it at some point soon. It was supposed to be on an agenda a month ago and got delayed because of the budget, so.
Okay.
All right, more to come when we'll all have to study up on it some.
Yeah, there's not much in there, but I think everybody should take the time to read it so we can have a good, thoughtful discussion.
Yep, all right, thank you. And then, so any updates from the committees, technical, or let's just ask technical first to see where they are.
No update since last meeting.
Okay, thanks. And Walter, communication, sounds like you guys.
I had a discussion with Marilyn and Greg about the slides and about, getting some additions to that and some more graphics maybe to make it easier, as I'll have their input on the next set I send to you. And that's what we're focused on right now.
Yep.
All right.
Great, thanks. And Woody, the policy group is focused on what we've been talking about all night.
Right. Am I reading this right, Dave? There's 9 panelists and 2 attendees.
Yes,
And of the 9 panelists, 2 are not on the committee or commission.
correct.
So there's 7 people. The attendees are not invited people, so that could be town residents or anybody else of interest that
Yeah,
is interested.
Yep.
Okay, any other general topics, general discussion we want to go through? Subjects anybody wants to bring up? All right, in that case, I'd make a motion that we adjourn. All those in favor?
Aye.
All right. Thanks very much, everybody.
Okay.
Good
Y'all take
discussion tonight.
care. Be safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.